The air trembled with a sound that did not belong to danger. It was the call of a hornbill, loud and echoing, bouncing between the trees. For a moment, the jungle seemed to sing. Cicadas whirred in the leaves, water dripped from last night's rain, and the smell of damp earth rose with the sun. This was the ordinary song of morning. But the story does not begin with peace. It begins with footsteps, soft, human, careful, moving deeper into the forest. A woman walks alone, unaware of the eyes watching her from both the shadows and the grass. The path beneath her boots is narrow, cut by years of elephant feet and worn smooth by rain. She carries no weapon, only a satchel and a pair of binoculars swinging at her side. She is a ranger, trained to track, to protect, to understand this place better than most people ever will. Yet here, in this vast wilderness, even the trained are small. She knows it. That is why her movements are slow, deliberate, as if she is listening with more than her ears. Above her, the canopy glows with early light. Sunbeams slice through gaps in the leaves, scattering golden coins across the forest floor. Dust motes dance in the light, rising and falling like tiny spirits. Every step the ranger takes stirs more of them into the air, though her pace never breaks. She breathes in deeply, filling her chest with the scent of leaves, bark, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers that bloom only at dawn. It is a world alive with detail, but also alive with secrets, for not all things reveal themselves in the light. From behind a screen of ferns, a shape watches her. A giant, broad-shouldered silverback gorilla crouches low, his dark fur blending with shadow. His chest rises and falls in slow rhythm, each breath deep, steady, unhurried. In his eyes there is no violence, only an ancient weight. He studies the woman the way the forest studies everything, quietly, without judgment. To him, she is part of the landscape, like the river that runs through his territory or the vines that hang heavy from the trees. She does not move like prey, nor like predator. She moves like something else, something he has seen before but does not fully name. The ranger pauses, resting her hand on the trunk of a fallen tree. Sweat clings to her brow. She does not know he is watching, yet for a flicker of a second, her body stills, as if she feels the silence pressing around her. Then she moves on, stepping back onto the trail, her eyes scanning the ground for signs of animal tracks. Beyond her, past the curtain of green, another silence is building. It does not come from the trees, nor from the gorilla. It rises from the grassland at the forest's edge. There, the savanna begins, wide, sunlit, endless. And in that golden sea of grass, lions stir. Their bodies ripple like shadows as they move low, bellies brushing the ground. Their tails flick, their eyes burn with hunger. This pride has been restless for days. Their last hunt failed, and hunger gnaws at their ribs like fire. Today, their patience is thin. Their eyes lock on movement. Not on buffalo, not on antelope, but on the figure of a human walking alone. The woman cannot see them yet. The grass hides their bodies, hides the curve of claws and the twitch of whiskers. Only the silence tells the truth, a silence so sharp it cuts through the morning chorus. Birds that had been calling moments ago grow quiet. The cicadas pause, as if the whole jungle has swallowed its own voice. The gorilla feels it first. His nostrils flare, pulling in a scent carried on the faintest shift of wind. His muscles tighten. He rises slowly to his full height, towering among the ferns. His eyes turn not to the woman, but beyond her, toward the invisible tension gathering in the grass. He does not know the lions are there, but he knows the jungle has changed. It is no longer calm. It is listening, waiting. The ranger senses something too. She straightens, her hand brushing against her binoculars. Her eyes sweep the canopy, then the ground, then the open edge of the trail where the forest thins. Her pulse quickens. She does not see the lions, but she feels the stillness pressing down. For a trained ranger, silence is a warning, louder than any roar. For a moment, the world holds still. The woman frozen in mid-step. The gorilla standing tall in shadow. The lions hidden but circling, their golden eyes locked. The forest, the savanna, the river, all of it feels balanced on the thin edge of breath. And then, like a drumbeat that echoes before the first strike of war, the sound of hoofbeats carries faintly from the distance. Antelope, running, not toward the clearing, but away from it. The grass parts briefly as the herd flees, their hooves stirring dust into the air. They vanish in seconds, leaving only silence again. But the message is clear. The lions are moving. The ranger's throat tightens. Her hand steadies on her satchel. She whispers something under her breath, not for anyone to hear, but for her own heart to hold on to. Words of focus, words of courage. She has seen danger before, but today feels different. From the shadows, the silverback lowers himself again, his gaze still fixed on the place where the grass ripples unnaturally. His body tenses, not in fear, but in readiness. The jungle is his domain, and in his domain, nothing happens unseen. The woman takes another step forward, unaware of how close she is to the circle that tightens around her. Behind her, the gorilla waits, a silent guardian she does not yet know she has. Ahead of her, danger sharpens its claws in the golden light of morning. The sun climbs higher, its heat spilling across the land, painting the grasses gold, setting shadows long and deep. In that golden light, the moment feels strangely fragile, as if it could break into violence at any breath. For now, nothing moves. The woman walks. The gorilla watches. The lions wait. The jungle itself holds its breath. The storm has not yet broken, but the silence says it will. The growl came first. Low, deep, almost like the earth itself rumbling awake. Then another, and another. By the time the fourth joined in, the jungle's silence was gone. Golden shapes slid through the tall grass, their bodies crouched low, shoulders rippling with muscle. Eyes like burning amber fixed on one target. The lone woman standing in the clearing. She froze. Her breath caught in her throat, sharp and painful, as if the air itself had turned against her. Her hands tightened on the strap of her field bag, though she knew nothing inside could save her. Every direction she turned, there were lions, shadows with teeth, circling closer, silent except for the growls that vibrated in her chest. For one fragile heartbeat, time seemed to slow. The sun still shone through the canopy. The river still whispered over rocks. But here, in this circle of grass and predators, peace had vanished. She could hear her pulse hammering in her ears, a drum of fear echoing louder with each step the lions took. Escape was impossible, and then the forest answered. From the far edge of the clearing came a sound unlike anything the woman had ever heard. A roar so deep, so powerful, it felt like the air was being torn apart. Leaves shook. Birds exploded from the trees in a frenzy. Dust leapt from the ground. The silverback had arrived. The gorilla burst from the shadows, a mountain of muscle and black fur, his chest rising like a wall with every breath. He struck his fists against his chest in thunderous beats, the sound booming across the clearing like war drums. His eyes, dark, burning with fire, locked on the lions. His roar thundered again, a warning, a challenge, and a promise. Not one step closer. The lions hesitated. Their snarls faltered, their paws shifting uneasily in the dust. Instinct screamed at them to fight, but fear whispered caution. This was no ordinary threat. This was the king of another kingdom, and he had claimed the clearing. The woman could not move. Her body shook, torn between terror and awe. She had seen silverbacks before, but never like this. This was no curious watcher from the shadows, no gentle guardian of his troop. This was raw power unleashed, standing between her and death, as if she were part of his own family. One lion crept forward, its golden coat flashing in the light. Lips curled back, teeth bared, tail lashing. The gorilla answered with a sudden charge, pounding the ground so hard the earth seemed to quake. Dust flew into the air, swirling around them like smoke from a fire. The lion flinched back, ears flattening, but the circle was still closing. Chaos took the clearing. Growls, roars, the thud of fists against earth, the crash of bodies in the grass. The lions tested the giant, darting forward, snapping teeth inches from his arms, then leaping back as he swung with terrifying strength. Each blow shook the ground. Each roar cracked through the canopy. The woman's chest burned with the effort of holding still, of not crying out, of not breaking the fragile balance. Her heart begged her to run, but her mind knew the truth. If she moved, the lions would strike. Her only chance, her only hope, was the towering figure standing between her and the hungry circle that a young lion, smaller but braver, lunged too far. The gorilla swung with the full weight of his body, and the lion tumbled back in a spray of dust, snarling in shock. The others faltered. Their circle loosened, their rhythm broken. For a moment, it seemed the tide had turned, but hunger is stronger than fear. The largest lioness stepped forward now, her body low, her amber eyes fixed not on the gorilla, but on the woman. She knew the weakness in the scene. The gorilla was strength, yes, but his protection had a blind spot. One slip, one distraction, and the prize would be hers. The woman saw it. She felt the lioness's gaze lock on her like a spear. Her throat tightened. Her knees almost buckled. She could see the decision forming in the predator's muscles. The crouch, the coil, the spring. She braced, breath shallow, ready for the blur of fur and teeth that would end her life. But the gorilla saw too, with a roar that shook the clearing like a storm. He placed himself between them, his broad back shielding the woman completely. Dust billowed as he pounded the ground with both fists, his massive body rising to full height. The lioness skidded to a halt, her eyes wide. Caught between rage and fear, the standoff froze time. A woman's life balanced between predator and protector. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, one by one, the lions began to retreat. Slowly, unwillingly, they stepped back into the tall grass, their golden bodies melting into the shadows. Snarls lingered in the air, but their eyes no longer burned with confidence. The gorilla's fury had broken their will. Silence fell, heavy and trembling. The gorilla lowered his fists, his chest still heaving with rage, but his eyes softer now. He turned slightly, just enough for the woman to see the curve of his shoulder, the line of his powerful back. For a moment, their eyes met, human and gorilla, fear and strength, fragile and unyielding. No words passed, no sound but the jungle's breath. Yet the message was clear. She was safe. The woman's legs gave way, and she sank to the ground, her hands shaking as she pressed them against the earth. Her heart thundered, but her breath began to slow. The danger had passed, though its shadow still lingered. The silverback stood tall, watching the grass where the lions had vanished, his body still tense, ready to defend again if needed. Then, slowly, he beat his chest one last time, not with rage now, but with finality, as if to tell the forest itself, the battle is done. The jungle grew quiet. Birds returned to the branches. Insects hummed again. The river whispered on. The woman lifted her eyes, tears glimmering in the morning light. She saw the gorilla's silhouette framed against the rising sun, dust drifting around him like smoke. Protector, guardian, stranger, ally. For a long, fragile moment, the two simply existed together in the silence. Then the gorilla turned and walked back into the forest, his massive form swallowed by the shadows of the trees. The woman remained on the ground, her breath shaky, her heart still racing. She knew this morning had changed everything. The baby birds chirped again. The leaves rustled softly. The world was calm once more, but it was a calm, hard one, fragile and unforgettable. The clearing held its breath no longer. But she would never forget the sound of the jungle when it roared to life in her defense. Chapter 3. The clearing still trembled with echoes of violence. Dust hung in the air, swirling in shafts of sunlight like smoke after a fire. The ground was scarred where paws had dug and fists had struck. The woman stood frozen, her chest heaving, her knees weak beneath her. Every sense was alive with the memory of danger. The musk of lion fur, the thunder of roars, the sting of fear in her lungs. But the circle of predators was gone. The lions had melted back into the grass, their golden coats vanishing like ghosts into the tall stalks. Only their scent lingered, heavy and sharp, a reminder of how close death had come. At the center of it all stood the silverback. His massive body was outlined in light, his chest still rising and falling from the battle. For a long moment, he did not move. His dark eyes scanned the grass, his ears catching every whisper, his muscles coiled and ready should the lions return. The woman could see the raw strength in him, the sheer power that had turned the tide, and yet there was something more in the way he stood, something steady, protective, almost calm. Their eyes met was not a glance, not a moment of fear or curiosity. It was a connection, heavy and unshakable, as if the jungle itself had woven their lives together for this single breath in time. The woman felt her trembling ease just slightly, not because she was safe, but because she knew why she was safe. It was him. This stranger, this giant of the forest, had stood against the storm and chosen her side. She did not dare to move closer. She only stood, silent, her eyes locked on his, her heart still pounding. And in his gaze she saw no hunger, no rage, not even the wild suspicion most animals hold for humans. She saw recognition, fragility meeting strength, life protecting life. The silverback gave a low grunt, deep in his chest, a sound not of threat but of finality. Then, with a slowness that seemed almost ceremonial, he lowered his great head. His shoulders relaxed, his arms hung heavy at his sides. He turned away from her, his wide back catching the golden light of the morning, and began to walk toward the shadows of the forest. Each step was measured, deliberate, as though he were fading not just into the jungle, but into legend. The dust around him caught in the light, curling around his frame like a veil until the green swallowed him whole. The woman's strength broke. She sank to her knees, pressing her hands into the dirt, tears streaking down her face. Her breath came in gasps, uneven, heavy with relief and disbelief. She had faced a circle of lions, teeth bared, hunger burning in their eyes, and she had survived. Not because of her training, not because of her strength, but because another creature, bound to her only by the shared language of survival, had chosen mercy. For a long while, she did not rise. She only listened to the forest around her, the sounds slowly returning as if the jungle itself had exhaled. Birds called timidly from the canopy. Insects buzzed, their rhythm picking up once more. The river carried on its endless song in the distance. Life, unshaken, continued. And yet, for her, nothing was the same. Her mind replayed the image of the gorilla's eyes, steady, unflinching, filled with a kind of understanding she could not name. She thought of the lions, their hunger driving them, their power almost ending her. She thought of the silverback, his fury rising not for himself, but to shield her, a being who had no claim on him. It was a truth almost too large to grasp. Sometimes survival is not about strength alone. Sometimes it is about connection, even across the invisible lines we imagine between species. Slowly, shakily, she rose to her feet. Her body ached, her throat was dry, but her spirit felt different, stretched, opened. She looked at the trail where the gorilla had vanished and knew she would never walk these paths in the same way again. To her, he was no longer just an animal of the forest. He was a guardian, a myth alive in muscle and breath, a reminder that the wild could be both cruel and kind in the same heartbeat. The woman turned her face to the canopy. Shafts of sunlight pierced through the leaves, painting her skin in gold. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth sink into her, letting the memory of fear fade into gratitude. The jungle had spared her. The jungle had protected her. And somewhere in its depths, the silverback carried on, unseen, his massive form moving with the quiet authority of a ruler who needed no crown. He would return to his troop, to his young, to the rhythm of his world. The woman was only a moment in his long life, a fragile echo he had shielded for reasons beyond human knowing. Yet for her, the memory was eternal, the camera of imagination pulled wide. The clearing shrank beneath the endless green, the river snaking silver through the distance, the horizon burning gold with morning light. From above, the scene was timeless, the jungle breathing, vast and unyielding, holding within it both the jaws of lions and the hands of guardians. And in that breath of silence, one truth lingered. Sometimes the wild protects its own. Even across the boundaries humans believe divide us, the jungle exhaled. The story of the morning was over, but its echo would live on, in the heart of a woman who had seen death circle close, and in the shadow of a gorilla who had chosen life.